We ready in the back? Well, good morning, everybody. I'm going to call to order the meeting of the Mendocino County Planning Commission on December 18th, 2025. Could I have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Wiedemann, Commissioner Richards,
Here.
Commissioner Jones, Vice Chair Pollen.
Here. All right, agenda item number 2. Do we have proper notice for today's meeting?
All items on the agenda have been properly noticed.
Great, thank you. All right, director's report. Do we have anything from the director?
Thank you. Good morning, Julia Krog, Planning and Building Services Director. I have no director's report today, but I'm available for any questions.
Okay. Any questions for our no reporting director? Okay, thank you. All right, moving on. Agenda item number 4, matters from the public. This is public expression. Members of the public are welcome to address the Planning Commission on items not listed on the agenda, but within the jurisdiction of the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission is prohibited by law from taking action on matters not on the agenda. Individuals wishing to address the Planning Commission under matters from the public may do so in person, via email, or Zoom. If any members of the public are logged into the Zoom meeting who wish to speak, please use the raise hand feature to allow staff to add you to the meeting. Do we have any requests under telecomment, public expression?
No requests have been received.
All right. Do we have any members of the room who wish to speak under public comment? All right. Anyone in Zoom raising their hand?
No hands raised in Zoom.
All right. We will move on then to agenda item number 5. This is the consent calendar. This is the approval of minutes from both the September 4th, 2025 meeting and the November 20th, 2025 meeting. Any comments on the consent calendar from any commissioners? All right. Any public comments on the consent calendar? All right, then I will invite a motion to approve the consent calendar.
I'll move.
You have a second?
I'll second.
All right. Roll call vote.
Commissioner Wiedemann,
Yes.
Commissioner Richards,
Yes.
Commissioner Jones,
Yes.
Vice Chair Pollen.
Yes. All right, thank you, everybody. All right, moving on to agenda item number 6. This is our regular calendar. The first item on the calendar for today is GP_2024-0001. This is the Redwood Valley MAC General Plan Amendment to incorporate recommendations from the Redwood Valley Community Action Plan into the community-specific policies element of the Mendocino County General Plan. I'll open the public hearing on this now. Have there been any correspondence or telephone calls received on this item?
All correspondence have been posted to the website.
Thank you very much. All right, may we have a staff presentation, please?
Good morning, Russ Ford, Senior Planner and Project Coordinator. So in front of you this morning is Project GP 2024-0001, a proposed general plan amendment. So this project proposes minor updates to Chapter 6, the community-specific policies of the general plan, specific to the Redwood Valley community. The project applicant is the Redwood Valley Municipal Advisory Council, the RVMAC, in conjunction with the Planning Department. Government Code Section 65300 mandates that each planning agency prepare a comprehensive general plan to regulate physical development within its jurisdiction. The statute lists a number of elements that are required in each general plan, such as land use, safety, and housing, but also provides agencies latitude to include other elements as desired. The County of Mendocino has chosen to include an optional element which covers community-specific policies for the unincorporated communities throughout the county. In addition to the proposed policy changes, I lost my place. Consistent with state law, the county may update or amend its general plan as needed. In addition to the proposed policy changes, staff has included a number of minor, non-substantial corrections throughout Chapter 6 aimed at improving consistency and updating information. So some quick background on this project. The RVMAC was created by the Board of Supervisors in 2016 and asked to create an updated Community Action Plan, a CAP, which had existed in draft form since about 2004. Between 2017 and 2023, the RVMAC hosted a series of stakeholder meetings to gather input on the CAP and submitted a draft to the Board of Supervisors for preliminary review and direction in 2023, where the board directed planning staff to work with the RVMAC on development of the CAP. Along with the CAP, the RVMAC also developed a set of proposed design guidelines that would regulate future development within the community. At its February 2024 meeting, The board recommended changes to the cap and design guidelines that would move the project forward as non-binding guidance rather than development requirements. Concerns were raised with the design guidelines, in particular that imposing development standards would add additional costs and time to permits. Following that, the RVMAC made revisions to the cap document and resubmitted. The final cap, as submitted, contains not only a number of policies, goals, and action items, but a lot of exposition and background information regarding how the cap came to be. While this information is relevant in historical context, it's not necessarily appropriate for incorporation into the general plan. So many of the recommended policies would be outside of the scope of the county's authority, and many were already contained within other portions of the general plan. So staff worked through the document and pulled out a number of recommendations felt suitable for incorporation, which are presented in the red line version of Chapter 6. The full cap as developed will be recognized by the Board of Supervisors with a separate resolution early next year. So here's a brief summary of the recommended changes to the community-specific policies. Policy 5 is being updated to focus on redevelopment of the old Redwood Valley Middle School instead of the lot on the corner of Schoolway and East Road, which has since been developed with many warehouses. An action item for Policy 6 has been added to support development of pedestrian access in the downtown core area. Additionally, staff has received recommended changes from County DOT, which would revise the action item to the following. Quote, work to develop and implement a plan to provide pedestrian improvement in the core downtown area along Schoolway and East Road in the public right-of-way, as funding opportunities allow that will not add a financial burden to the county, unquote. So that would be a minor change from the posted redline document. Policy 10 is being added to support agro and ecotourism opportunities. Policy 11 is being added to encourage the use of locally native species when landscaping is needed, and to target the removal of invasive species as defined by the California Invasive Plant Council. Policy 12 is being added to encourage the use of dwelling groups or cluster development to balance the need for more housing with the protection of ag lands. Policy 13 is being added to note that commercial cannabis cultivation shall prioritize protection of residential uses, and that outdoor cultivation is preferable to indoor mixed light cultivation. Policy 14 is being added to encourage commercial development to incorporate the use of green and renewable energy sources. Policy 15 is being added to state the county's support of locally owned businesses seeking sources of funding. Policy 16 is being added to state the county's support of job creation through local, non-polluting light industry. And Policy 17 is being added to encourage cooperation between the county and the Redwood Valley community in planning open spaces, parks, and public gardens. Finally, staff has updated the page index at the beginning of Chapter 6 to reflect these changes and standardized some language throughout the document, as well as adding an image to the Redwood Valley section. The county's general plan EIR originally analyzed impacts associated with adoption of the general plan, including its associated policies. Staff has determined that the proposed modifications would not result in changes likely to cause significant physical impacts, and so has prepared an addendum to the adopted general plan EIR, consistent with Section 15162 of the Public Resources Code. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission adopt this addendum to the EIR and recommend approval of the proposed changes to the Board of Supervisors as discussed and modified at the hearing today. That concludes staff's presentation, and we're available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have questions from the commissioners for staff? You always go
First?
You don't have to, but please do. You're good.
Someone else can go first. I have no problem with going.
Anyone else want to go first? You go first.
Okay. I mean, just putting it out there.
Yeah, I know.
So this was kind of a lot of information to absorb, and I actually did go through and read the Redwood Valley cap itself, and then also looked at the policies. And one of the things I struggled a little bit with, which items from the cap you decided to transfer over as policy recommendations and which ones you didn't. And then also a little bit with how the language was rewritten, or kind of like, else to say it, but maybe watered down a little bit when it got put into the general plan language. And so I guess that's not really a question, or like, well, if I have a question, maybe it is like, do you think I'm right, one? And two, I just, as a planner, I have a hard time with policies that are not clear and specific, because when you get to actually applying them to a specific project, there's just so much wiggle room in the interpretation that I sometimes feel like, why even have the policy there? Like, if there's that much wiggle room, what is it actually doing? So that's one question. Or maybe a way of thinking through this a little bit. I guess I'm not really having questions, am I? All right, I have one specific question, and that is for the school zoning, the middle school. Do you know what the zoning is for that right now, and would it allow the use that you're proposing?
Through the chair, I believe the zoning is currently public facility, and there's a couple of options. There's a committee that's currently working on development on that. There's a couple of different approaches that they're pursuing. So it really depends on what the classification of the use is and who ends up managing that facility.
Okay, so the only reason I bring it up is there's a new state law that doesn't allow you to rezone property that's zoned for housing for anything else. And the description said that it had been used for housing, so I just wasn't sure. So thank you. That was my question.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Commissioner Wiedemann?
I'll wait till we get into the meat of the document.
Okay.
Thank you.
Do you have any questions? Okay. I don't have any either. So let's invite the applicant to present. Do we have a representative from the Redwood Valley Municipal Advisory Council here?
Hi, thanks everybody. This is Dolly Riley, and I'm the chair of the Redwood Valley MAC. And first of all, I just want to thank everybody that worked on this. A lot of Redwood Valley citizens, 4 meetings, 2017 to 2019, 50 to 100 people at each meeting. I want to appreciate Cliff Paulin because he was a facilitator and helped with a lot of those meetings. Then it came to a subcommittee for the last few years, which of 5 people, all are leaders in the community. Alex DeGrassi is now on the Ukiah Planning Commission. Sheila Rogers helped establish West Company. All the other 4 besides me are founding members of the MAC. I came a few years later. Jenny Reynolds, who is present, field representative, but major player in establishing and reopening Granges in 4 towns, Lake and Mendocino County, among many other things. She was vice chair of the MAC. Christine Boyd, who could not be here, is vice chair and was the founding chair of the MAC. I want to thank all of them, but then I want to thank Julia Krog, director, and Russ Ford, because then they took our plan and they worked very hard to whittle down what the county could do as far as jurisdiction and what they couldn't do. For example, I'll give 2 examples real quick. One was the folks of Redwood Valley want a roundabout because the congestion at Eagle Peak School is terrible. And that doesn't go to the county so much as MCOG. They make a lot of decisions on traffic. I wrote out my examples. I'll give one more. Fire Safe Councils, Firewise USA, and Sirens. I've been going to every Redwood Valley Calpella Fire District meeting in 2025, and we're getting close. But that may not be something the county wants to exercise purview over, and I understand. There's a lot. So there was a lot taken out, and we understand that, and I will convey that at the next MAC meeting. And so I want to thank you guys. I'm happy with the condensed version. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Do we have any questions from commissioners for the applicant?
I kind of did.
Okay.
I'll be quick. Do you mind? Thank you. So I live in Round Valley, so I'm kind of familiar with Max and how they operate. So I was just curious, you did 4 meetings?
We had 4 announced public meetings where we sent postcards to everybody in Redwood Valley, and we catered food, and it was like a cafe style where people could City of Ukiah did the same thing in the last few years, where they could give all their ideas, and we put it on post-it notes, and then we put it on the wall, and we took everybody's ideas into consideration.
What was like you said it was 100 people, 100 people. I'm just curious how many people showed up at the meetings.
I think the first meeting was well over 100, but all of them had 50 to 100 at least.
And
It was well attended.
sounds like it.
And we got wild ideas, like no high rises. Well, we're not going to do high rises. Redwood Valley's not built on a rock like New York, you know?
Correct. And do you have any idea what the population of the MAC area is for Redwood Valley?
No.
Okay.
I'm not gonna guess. I've heard it before, but I can't quote it.
I was obviously just curious about how many people were aware and were participating. That's what-
Everybody was aware, but not all wanted to participate. I'm gonna say 3,000 to 5,000.
Oh, okay. And you're satisfied with the way that staff incorporated it into the proposed cap?
I
Sounds like it.
agree with the other commissioner that it could have been more precise, but I'm happy.
Okay,
I'm okay with it.
thank you.
Great. Any other questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you very much. We will now open this for public comment. The commission will start with public comments in the room, and then later we'll hear from telecommenters and people that are connected virtually via Zoom. If you are going to speak, please, when you're called to speak, please state your name for the record, and please speak into the microphone. We can hear you up here, but people that are far away need to have you on the microphone so they can hear you. Public comment is limited to 3 minutes per person. Speakers are asked to please address their comments to the meeting chair and to refrain from using profanity or engaging in conversation with members of the audience or staff. Do we have any members of the public who wish to speak? Please come forward and speak your name into the microphone.
Hello, my name's Jenny Reynolds, and I have been a member of the MAC since the conception. I was the vice chair up until just last year. I would just like to address your question here. When we had our meetings, our 4 meetings, we not only had a large population of Redwood Valley, our community, show up, but we divided up into 4 and sometimes 5 different groups so that it would be like public safety or what we needed for our children or fire safe. So we would divide up in the groups, and then we would do the Post-it notes and bring it. And I'm bringing that up because it's very important for other communities to see how well that worked. So I just wanted to say thank you again, Russ and Julia, because they have been so helpful. And I agree, it's been a little watered down and a little bit different, but I feel very happy about that. I would like to say that when we started these meetings, had we not had the meetings and not had our community and our MAC so together, when we were affected by the fires in 2017, we would not have had it so together. And we were able to open up the Redwood Valley Grange and accommodate our community. And it has really brought our community together, and I'd like to continue to see this go forward. The one other thing I wanted to point out that has happened from the MAC, for 20 years I've been trying to get the Meals on Wheels in Redwood Valley. And after our community action plan and everything, and my taking it to Plowshares, I'm leaving here soon to go do Meals on Wheels. We now have Meals on Wheels in Redwood Valley because we're now being acknowledged as a community that wants to work together. And we have one of our other Redwood Valley Meals on Wheels delivery person here who's on the MAC. So I thank you, and I say, please accept this, and thank you for doing all the work.
Thank you.
And can I just say I'm envious about the public participation in Redwood Valley. Congratulations. I can tell. Mm-hmm.
Good morning, Planning Commission. To be fair, Redwood Valley has a few more people than you all. I think we have about 1,500, maybe 1,800 people in Redwood Valley, but I'm Madeline Klein. I'm the first district supervisor. I just wanted to come and speak today to just share with you how impressed I am with the resilience of Redwood Valley, and particularly the leadership from the MAC, the Grange, others. and thank as well as staff for all the work that they put in. As many comments mentioned previously, maybe this isn't what was originally envisioned, but at this point it is what will be memorialized and provide that context for how this came about in the long run. So I'm really proud of the work that was done and just appreciate all the consideration going into this and the many people who were involved. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public who wish to speak? Okay, do we have any telecomments or people on Zoom wishing to speak?
There are no hands raised on Zoom.
All right then. Any final remarks from staff?
Nothing at the moment, thank you.
Okay, any final remarks from the applicant? Okay. Commissioners, do you have any additional questions for staff or the applicant? Commissioner Wiedemann, I'll start with you since you wanted to reserve some time.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. I do. On the policy 3, or the CPRV 10, agro and ecotourism. So my issue is probably just trying to understand. Here's what I'm trying to protect. I'm trying to protect the Williamson Act ag lands and the owners of the Williamson Act ag lands right now. And the question is when we do ecotourism, what is the definition of that in regard, because if ecotourism isn't having anything to do with ag, so to speak, you don't have cows, you're not growing a crop, but you're taking income from some kind of a tourist thing, how are we mitigating that? Because once we put it here, it's going to reflect maybe other parts of the county and my district, etc. Okay, that's one question.
Thank you for the question, Russ Ford through the chair. And I think this actually ties back to Commissioner Jones's question about how the policies get a little bit watered down, because clearly there's an intent to encourage some of these ag uses that have not been well defined yet. And I'd say that something like this is probably going to tie into the upcoming low intensity camping ordinance, short-term rental ordinances, which will be regulated under those separate ordinances. This is just trying to get ahead of that a little bit and saying that the community wants to see support for these sort of diversification of ag uses. So we have the protection of the ag lands, but you have to account for additional ways for those operators to make income, and these kind of farm stays and these ag tourism seems to be a pretty good way. But we acknowledge that that pathway is not clearly defined yet.
And if I may just add on to that as well, the department has adopted Williamson Act policies and procedures. So regardless, any activities that come forward on Williamson Act contracted lands have to be in conformance with those policies and procedures. And the way those are currently written, there's compatible uses and there's also qualifying uses. And so I think when we talk about looking at diversification of income, primarily those may be looking at compatible uses, which are restricted to a certain percentage of the land or an overall acreage cap. So, there's no potential for additional conversion to happen than what is already the pathways allowed today.
So then maybe what I would like is actually you could even get me the data of where you think on the Williamson Act that this will be consistent with the existing state policy. Right? That would be helpful to me going forward, because this is going to roll into my district and our ag lands at some point. This issue of the mixed use, so to speak, we're adding a use that on ecotourism. We're defining what's coming down the pike, so to speak, in the future. And I just want really clear information and findings that are compatible with the state regs. And I hear you, Julia, and I'm happy to have that. That's great.
And if I may, I just want to clarify too, this isn't adding any new use types with this adoption of that language. It's just stating that the community of Redwood Valley has a desire to see that there be opportunities for diversification of income
Yes.
on agriculturally zoned lands.
Right.
Any sort of new allowable uses, that would come through as part of zoning regulations, and that's not what's in front of the commission today.
Good. So I want to be, when it does come before us, I just would like that clear information on that. I had another thing before I pass, and it had to do with the CPRV, it was the, which one was it? It was the agricultural, that marijuana now is, I don't have the CP number in front of me.
13, I believe.
Which one is it?
13.
13.
Commercial cannabis cultivation.
Yeah, so my question is, the community's comfortable to have outdoor grows now, and in the sense of not in a greenhouse of some sort, hoop house? Is that because we've had so many complaints about odor, right, and neighborhood? So how did that work out?
Through the chair, I think this was kind of a conglomeration of some concerns, and also I'm happy to defer on the applicant of that. Basically, what this was intended to address was the proliferation of abandoned hoop houses and junk material. You know, we had a big rush of structures being put up with the cannabis boom, and a lot of that was just left behind. So now you have a lot of rotting plastic, and the opinion that we were hearing a lot from the community is that it was preferable to just have the outdoor cannabis as an ag operation rather than to deal with the visual blight. But of course, there are odor impacts related.
Can I ask Chair to have?
Please.
Yes, the applicant.
To address the chair, this is Dolly Riley. I want to say that a lot of people complained that the green and hoop houses had bright lights after 10 p.m. and a couple of places in our document of the community action plan, we were asking that we retain dark skies, much like Humboldt just passed a regulation where lights aim downward. I've had just number of calls even recently, like, why is that greenhouse all lit up and it's 11 at night? What happens is with greenhouses, they can do like 3 crops a year, and so they do. And I'm going to be candid and say I don't know what the cannabis department or planning and building regulations are with night lights, but they get away with it in Redwood Valley. It's very disturbing to people that need sleep. The Redwood Valley MAC has a cannabis subcommittee, and I'd like the chair of it, Patricia Riss-Yarbrough, to say 1 or 2 things.
Thank you. My name is Patricia Riss-Yarbrough. The question was raised as to whether the community is comfortable with outdoor grows, and that's a whole new chapter of conversation that we may not have today. But I want to second what Dolly just said, that people are not comfortable with bright lights and hoop houses, which are currently abandoned and flapping in the wind and dispersing plastic into our environment. I was not part of the initial CAP plan. I'm a newcomer. I've been living in Redwood Valley for the past 6 to 7 years, and I've seen deep changes occurring. So if you have any questions, I could answer those, but otherwise, this is my comment. Thank you.
And if I just may add a little bit additional context too for the commission. So in the community action plan at the bottom of page 15 and onto page 16, the plan that was prepared by the Redwood Valley MAC specifically touches on cannabis cultivation, and their objective was to continue to work with the cannabis community and the county to ensure cannabis cultivation is properly zoned and regulated. And throughout the policy and action discussion underneath that objective, they do talk about wanting to see consideration of natural sun-grown cannabis sites. So as staff was, talking through how Russ had worked through some of these policies, we looked at how can we, essentially work within the existing regulation framework that the county has adopted surrounding cultivation of cannabis and allowances that exist already for those sites, but still, give credence to what the Redwood Valley MAC and the community desires to see, which is an encouragement of sun-grown cannabis over the, mixed light or indoor cultivation activities. So that's how that policy resulted out of it.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. How do I want to say? And I totally agree around the lack of consciousness of growers who had greenhouses and who don't monitor night skies. We have it too in my district quite a bit. But I do want to just make sure, because we've had in the past neighbors who were very affected by outdoor grows of the smell, and I don't know what the policy is at some point, which is going to be coming down the pike, how we balance that. That's really what it's about. It's just finding the right balance. And thank you. Oh, we have another person coming.
Jenny Reynolds. One of the things that we've heard from our community is that if it's an outdoor grow, the smell happens one time a year. I mean, come on. Anytime you pass the greenhouse, we have a big greenhouse on my road where I live, and any greenhouse I pass, you can still have the smell. So the odor happens once a year instead of all throughout the year when you have an outdoor grow.
Mr. Jones?
Okay, thank you. Yes, so I have a few just comments for RV 11. I'm just a little frustrated by the wording. Shall encourage to me are like two really different planning words. Like it should either be is encouraged or shall be done. So you have like a very strong you should, and then you have a whatever. So I would like to see that cleaned up. And just a general thing about language, and maybe you could think about this for all the policies. Landscaping and new development as a noun doesn't have the ability to encourage anything. So I'd like us to think about rewording these. So just as an example, use of locally native species and the targeted removal of supportive species as defined in the California Invasive Plant Council is encouraged for landscaping and new development. I think it's a much clearer sentence than the way it's written now. So just like think about like who's the noun in this sentence and what's it doing as you go through that, because it kept like tripping me up. So that's just a kind of a general observation. And then for RV 17, actually more worried about the first sentence than the second one. And you have shall prioritize protection. And those are very strong words, and I appreciate those words, but protection is not defined at all. So vis-a-vis existing residential uses. So like for me, what is, as a planner, if I was trying to implement that, what does that mean? What does protection mean? Does that mean protection against noise and light, or does it mean distance, or like how do you operationalize that, I guess, is when you're looking at a development program. And so to think through like, and I'm not sure what the right answer is, I'm just asking the question, like, how would you operationalize that? For RV 14, I think the building code already requires this, so I'm not sure you even need RV 14 because basically the state is saying thou shalt put solar on everything. I mean, it doesn't matter that it's there, but it wouldn't also matter if it's not there. And then I guess RV 16 was the one that I kind of flagged a little bit more because it seemed to pull two different priorities from the county into one that in a way kind of caused a mutation. And I'm sure it wasn't intentional, And I'm sorry, because the document is super big, but I'm not going to be, if you give me a time, if someone else talks, I can go back and find exactly which ones they were. But the way I read them was the county encourages local, sustainable, non-polluting businesses. It was a very general recommendation. And then there was a much narrower recommendation about the locations where light industry should be, and that it shouldn't be everywhere. And what we've ended up instead is sort of a marriage of these two disparate ideas that limits supporting business, non-polluting, sustainable businesses everywhere, and doesn't address the desire to limit light industrial. So I think that that one might need a little work to be truly representative of what the community as it's expressed in the plan. Those are my comments.
Thank you. Commissioner Richards, do you have any comments? Okay. I guess a question for you, Commissioner Jones. Are you requesting that staff make some of these revisions to the language right now so we can review them before we make a recommendation to the Board of Supervisors, or?
Well, I think it would be nice to have the language reviewed, but I also don't want to put them like on a big, like, orchard path where they're like frantically typing. And I also respect how much time the community put into this. I like don't want to be like slow it down. But on the other hand, I also feel like sometimes at the last minute, if you do just a little bit better, you end up with a better product. And if there's an opportunity or a desire to do that today, I think that could be beneficial. So my answer is up to us.
I guess question for staff, do you feel like you have sufficient direction that this could be done in an expeditious manner?
I'll say I think if we're re-looking at all of the various policies, we would likely ask that you continue this item so that way we could do that and bring back changes for the commission. If we're just talking about reworking one or two policies, that's something that I think that we can talk through as a group during this meeting. But I think if it's re-looking at the wording of all of those, then we would want to make sure that we take time, because we have spent a lot of time going into this, so we want to make sure that it's we're not rushing into changes. Yeah.
Okay.
And if I may, I think the changes to policy 11 for the landscaping, that's very straightforward. That's something we could do on the fly.
Okay.
The other ones, I'd defer to the commission.
Great. Commissioner Wiedemann?
I just wanted to also say on policy 12, you scroll back down, on the clustering. Yeah. I think that's great. That's what I'm trying to say. To use that clustering policy, we worked on that. I worked on that many, many years ago, and to protect large holdings, but allowing more build out on those holdings and keeping extended families happening. So I just think encouraging the clustering policy is a good thing, and I'm happy to see it in there.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Richards, do you have anything yet? Okay. Commissioner Jones, I guess a question for you is, do you have a sense, would your preference be to continue this item so that there could be a more thorough evaluation
look, I'm
done?
a really quick editor. I could like literally read out new language for each of these policies in about 4 minutes. Like we could go through it really fast right now. And it's just about how it reads so that you can easily apply it. But if you guys want to do it on your own, I also respect that. Would I vote against it if the will of the people is to move forward today, even with them being a little awkward? No.
Okay. Director Krog, how do you feel about taking a few minutes and maybe making some high-level changes to make it more readable so we don't have to continue this? Because I do feel like this process has been somewhat arduous for the Redwood Valley MAC, and it'd be nice to not have to continue it, I think, for the people that are here today. Does that feel manageable?
I think, yeah, if we can focus on which specific policies and get some clear direction from the commission or Commissioner Jones, that would help us. And then we'd probably ask for a break so we can write it up into a red line resolution.
Great.
So that way those changes can be considered by the Board of Supervisors.
Cool. Commissioner Jones, you want to do some of your rapid pace editing
Sure.
suggestions, and we'll then I think it does take a good idea. I think if you want to give those suggestions, and then if staff will take maybe a 10-minute break, and then we'll come back with a red line version that we can all look at together. Does that work for you, Commissioner Jones?
Sure, and I don't want to belabor the point.
I know
It's-
you don't,
yeah.
but having it well written is worthwhile.
Okay, all right. So for RV11, this would be how I would word it. The use of locally native species, yada, 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 and the targeted removal of invasive species, blah, 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 is encouraged for landscaping in new development. So you're just changing the clause order. RV12. Dwelling groups and or cluster development that would provide blah, 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 is encouraged for the long-term viability of agricultural lands while allowing development of additional housing units. For RV11, I would really like to see something that, like, what is prioritizing protection? Like, just in parentheses, visual odor. Like, I think those are the things, right? Like visual odor impacts. Like that would just give a little more meaning to that one. For RV10, green and renewable energy sources are encouraged in the design and construction of new commercial development, including solar arrays and EV charging stations. Like, you see what I'm doing? It's actually not very hard. Sorry. Somewhere along the line, some English professor really hammered me, clearly. RV15 is great because there's an actor that's the county. RV16 I also think is fine, but I would like to recommend that we at least revise light industry to businesses, because it did confuse two different policies, and while this doesn't do what the community wanted in terms of protecting itself from light industry, it at least doesn't give light industry a step up over other things. And that's it. I would just say non-polluting businesses. Get rid of light industry. It's a broader policy, and that was actually the way it was written in the document.
Okay.
Sorry to be so
No, it's good.
Englishy.
Any other English comments from any commissioners? Okay. Well, then I will say is 10 minutes enough to do that? So let's take a 10-minute recess. We'll come back at 10:53, and we'll look at a red line version at that point.
You have a cold, Cliff? How are you? You were like dedicated to be here with a cold. Right.
good on the technological fronts? Okay, great. All right, would you please the revisions in the red line?
Yes, thank you, Russ Ford, project planner. So here are the recommended revisions to the red line document, starting with policy 6, which added in the language that was recommended by the Department of Transportation, which just reads, in the public right-of-way as funding opportunities allow, that would not add a financial burden to the county. So then moving down, we have a revision to policy 11, which reads, the use of locally native species and the targeted removal of invasive species as defined by the California Invasive Plant Council is encouraged for landscaping in new development. And then similar changes on policy 12, the use of dwelling groups and or cluster development that would provide for the protection of long-term viability of agricultural lands while allowing development of housing, additional housing units is encouraged. Policy 13 adds odor and light pollution under protection of existing residential uses. Policy 14 is revised to read, the use of green and renewable energy sources is encouraged in the design and construction of new commercial development, including solar arrays and EV charging stations. And policy 16 is revised to read, the county encourages job creation and economic development through local, sustainable, non-polluting businesses. In addition to those, there were a couple of recommended changes to the resolution. I'll bring that up. Okay, a couple minor corrections and modifications. In finding 2, we just noted that the addendum is attached as Exhibit B. There's a correction on finding 4 to remove the UVAP EIR and Inland Zoning Code update in favor of the Redwood Valley Community Specific Policies, and in addition to finding 6 for Exhibit A. And I believe that was it on the resolution.
Okay. Any other suggestions, revisions? All right, then. Well then, any final comments from the applicant on those revisions? Okay, great then. I will invite a motion then, unless there's any other discussion. Commissioner Wiedemann?
Sure.
Commissioner Jones?
So I move that we adopt the resolution implementing the new policies to the general plan and the EIR addendum. It wasn't word for word. Is that good enough?
This is Deputy County Counsel Matthew Gadrowski.
You want a word for word?
This is a report and recommendation to the board. I think we have a draft resolution. I think it's, adopt the resolution as modified at today's meeting with the attachments as modified at today's meeting.
Okay. So we'll adopt the resolution recommending that the Board of Supervisors adopt these changes to the general plan as modified at the meeting.
Great. All right. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right. Any further discussion? All right. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Richards?
Yes.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Wiedemann?
Yes.
Vice Chair Pollen?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
All right.
Thank you.
Congratulations, guys. Good job.
Yay, Redwood Valley.
Community planning is hard.
Yes. All right, then. Moving on. Agenda item 6B. This is item S_2020-0001 /DEV_2020-0001. This is a subdivision modification of a previously approved subdivision number S3-2005 as previously approved modification of S_2020-0001 /DEV 2020-0001. The subdivision modification approved April 11th, 2023, consisting of a vested tentative map to subdivide 48.8 acres into 171 residential parcels and modification to the development agreement previously recorded. The 2025 modification request consists of an amended vesting tentative map that reduces the number of lots to 166 residential parcels, modifies the overall design of the map, and requests deletion of portions of the condition of approval 55 related to increased sidewalk and landscaping widths. Exceptions to the Division of Land Regulations and County Zoning Ordinance were approved under the prior modification, and the applicant requests that an additional design concession to allow for rear yard setbacks be reduced from 20 feet to 15 feet. A second restated development agreement would supersede and replace the restated development agreement approved on April 11, 2023 to reflect the proposed amended vesting tentative map. The Planning Commission will provide a recommendation to the Board of Supervisors regarding approval of the following items. First, a second restated development agreement, an amended vesting tentative map, modified conditions of approval, modified phasing plan, preliminary landscape site plan and planting plan, density bonus and reductions in development standards per state density bonus law, addendum to the environmental impact report for the Gardens Gate subdivision, and amended mitigation monitoring and reporting program. All right. Wow. I will now open the public hearing. Has there been any correspondence or telephone calls received?
There have been none.
Okay, thank you. All right, staff presentation, please.
Thank you, Julia Krog, Planning and Building Services Director, and thank you to the chair for reading the very, very long description leading into this. So it saves me from having to read that full long description. But for those of you that have been on the commission for a while, you may be familiar with this project. It was previously in front of you in March of 2023, and it received final approval from the County Board of Supervisors on April 11th, 2023. So what's in front of you today is a modification request to that approval from 2023 with a new amended vesting tentative map. So the project site location, it's at 3000 South State Street, which is about 1 mile south of the city of Ukiah, and it's immediately south of Gobelay Lane, which is a private roadway. It's a 48.8 acre site, and it was formerly a vineyard. The vineyard was removed in 2021. This slide provides you some of the background that's led us to where we are today, beginning with the 2009 certification of the final EIR for the Gardens Gate subdivision and approval of the vesting tentative subdivision map for, at that time, the 197 lot residential subdivision, and the subsequent development agreement, and then first amendment to that development agreement. In 2020, the new property owner and the applicant had filed applications to modify the project approvals and modify the layout of the lot, streets and parks, reduce the project density and the overall number of lots, and modify the inclusionary housing agreement and extend the term of the development agreement. That is the project that was in front of you in 2023. The final approval was, like I said, April 11th, 2023, where the board approved the Bella Vista subdivision and the development agreement amendment. In January of this year, the applicant filed this new modification request for the revised map and also modification of conditions of approval that were previously adopted, the condition 55 subparts E and F, which spoke to increased landscaping widths and increased sidewalk widths. Here's an overview of what the original Gardens Gate project was designed as, and you can see it was a much more dense subdivision at 197 lots and a different layout than what was approved in 2023. The map here is showing you what was approved in 2023, and as you can see, there was the senior neighborhood that's located at the eastern boundary over here on the site, and then you had the traditional neighborhood lots that extended back towards the west of the site. And then what I will show you on this next slide, this is the proposed amended vesting tentative map. And as you can see, it maintains a lot of similarities with the previously approved map. So one of the keys is that the neighborhood park is remaining at the front of the subdivision. You can see that here as parcel B, and that is going to be abutting State Street. It maintains also a senior neighborhood, and it's a little bit hard to see on this particular map, but if you see this dashing that runs across here and then down and back out to the east, this is the new senior neighborhood. And the number of lots in the senior neighborhood has increased from 39 under the prior approval in 23 to 42 under this request. They have also reduced the overall number of lots on the subdivision to 166, but they are going to maintain the 13 income restricted units. So that does not change. It remains at actually greater than 10% that they are including for income restricted units. The project also has been revised to be constructed in 2 phases. So this dashed line that runs all the way across the entire site here is showing you the phase division. So phase 1 will include the senior neighborhood development, as well as several of the traditional neighborhood lots, and then the remainder of the subdivision would be constructed in phase 2. Some of the other changes that you see as well, the site still does have 2 access points out onto South State Street. This used to be a through road in this area. This is now a emergency access component. Yes?
Can we ask questions as you go along?
Sure.
Yeah. Is there a specific area that's designated for the low-income units?
There are
Moderate-income units?
There are some shown on here, and it's you might see better BMRs that are listed. However, the applicant will provide a final plan to us, but they're sprinkled throughout the subdivision. They're not all located in just one portion. Yes. And that also includes one here at the front of the subdivision as well. And then you can see one over here as currently mapped, some within this block, also down within this block here, and throughout the center block here as well.
Yeah, my only concern is if they're doing it in phases, that they would need to have enough in the first phase to qualify for the density bonus exceptions. Incentives.
The county with the senior, and that's covered in the staff report in more detail as well, in order to grant any concessions and incentives for the overall subdivision, the senior neighborhood actually requires that a density bonus be provided because of the area that it's located on and what would ordinarily be the density. So that provides the pathway for including the concessions and incentives that the developer has requested. And then as outlined in the restated development agreement that was adopted in 2023, and then also now the second restated development agreement that is proposed for this project, the applicant is not required to construct any of the affordable units in phase 1, and that's primarily because they're constructing the senior neighborhood in phase 1. But then they do have to, any that they construct in phase 1, if they choose to do so, that'll be discounted from the overall number that's constructed in phase 2. And I'm sure the applicant is online, and I'm sure can speak more to that as well. So let's see, the other changes that I'll just highlight here, there was some modification to some of the linear parks. And you can see the linear park runs along between the various blocks here. It does have a little jog in it where then it continues through the senior neighborhood. And then you do have still the age-restricted cottage park that is to be constructed in the age-restricted neighborhood. And that will include having a common building on that unit as well. And the number, or excuse me, the size of that common building has been increased as a result of the number of senior lots that are now proposed. So it's a moderate increase. It's a minimum required of 615 square feet. But the it factors, it's one for each lot that's constructed, it's required 15 additional square feet to account for at least one resident out of each unit being able to occupy that building space. So getting back at occupancy. Let's see, in terms of any other changes to just highlight for you, you will see there is some linear park that now is also running in a north to south direction through the senior neighborhood, connecting them up to the main thoroughfare, which is Charlie Barra Drive. Another significant change, just to be aware of, is at the back of the subdivision here, there was previously a mitigation measure that required that there was 4 lots proposed in that area, and due to the proximity to a creek that's located back there, those 4 lots were required to be relocated. And the developer has since removed those lots from the proposed subdivision. I think that's partially the factor in the reduction of the overall number of lots, and has now designated that area as Parcel M, which will remain undeveloped. And you see that reflected in some of the mitigation measures as well for the project, where we have needed to revise the language within the mitigation measures to refer to Parcel M, where previously it was referring to specific lot numbers, which are no longer included in this proposed tentative map. So before I move on to the next slide, are there any other questions on the tentative map? So as you can see here, that area I was just referring to, you can see previously there was 4 lots included in that area, so those have been removed. And then you can see that the layout has been slightly modified in terms of how the roadways run and also how the senior neighborhood is bounded. Of course.
Can I ask a quick, so parcel M was part of modified? Okay, so now M is gone, and we're moving on to second modified.
M is now included as a parcel that is to remain undeveloped and retained by the current owner. This is the previously approved map. Yeah, you just had it in the reverse, and so you can see there was previously lots that were located in the area that is now designated as parcel M, and those have been relocated elsewhere within the subdivision.
Yeah, I asked my question terribly. So those lots were on M were approved as part of the modified, right?
Yes, in 2023 they were approved. However, the ones that directly bordered the creek there were required by a mitigation measure to be relocated elsewhere within the subdivision. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions?
And so the little street tabs that kind of go off the parcel are really just intended to provide access to the lots on either side.
These stub outs?
The stub outs, yeah.
And I think also accounting for future, if adjacent parcels ever desired to subdivide, just accounting for future development potential.
Yeah. It's just interesting. Okay. All about the market.
I think that'll be a great question for the applicant. I know they've been diligently working since the 2023 approval on their, the approval is the first step, and then they have a ton of work that has to be completed after that time, working on their improvement plans and drawings. And so I'm sure the applicant can speak a little bit better to their timeline at this point.
Right. I guess I ask because I know that this is a much larger context question, but as I'm sure everyone in this room is aware, there is the potential of the city of Ukiah annexing additional territory inside of its jurisdictional boundaries. And one of my biggest challenges with this project when it first was presented to us, and it wasn't enough for me to say we shouldn't do this, is that the only access to the entire subdivision is off of State Street. And so, especially for children who might be going to the school there at Grace Hudson or anywhere else, there's really no easy way to access anything other than vehicular traffic. And while it's not ideal, where parcel M is, there is, some surface streets that are located not far to the north of that, that if you had a jurisdiction that would allow for connectivity for footpaths or bike paths to occur through there, it would certainly make this a much more attractive and livable neighborhood. So again, I know you guys don't have that, and stating that out loud as my own view. Yes. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. And then I'll just note for the commission, I did prepare, there's a table 1 summary within the staff report, which I think is a helpful comparison if you want to look at that, just showing between the 2009 Gardens Gate project that was approved, the modified project, and then the current requested modifications. And it actually shows that there's an overall increase in the park area that's included as part of this project. So there are some real benefits to the proposed modified design as well. So with no further questions at this point, I'll move on to the next slide. So what you see here is this is the overall site plan for the landscape plan, the full details of the landscaping plan with all the various exhibits, because as you can see on here, there's some areas that have enlargements. That's included in the Planning Commission's packet as the PC Reso Attachment 3, and that includes all the more detailed graphics for the community, the community park and the age-restricted neighborhood, and also the neighborhood park that will be available to all residents and to the general public. This graphic that I have here shows you essentially what's going to be along the streets. And I think a positive from the last time this was in front of the commission, there was some concern, I think, last time about more regionally appropriate native species being utilized. And I think the applicant has taken a concerted effort in doing that and specifically utilized trees that are included as required elements in the city of Ukiah's streetscape requirements. So really also looking at a level of continuity and appearance as well between this subdivision and the city of Ukiah's streetscape work that they've been doing. So I see that as a real positive in this project as well. Any questions on landscaping?
I will note that most of those trees are non-natives.
Yeah.
Just saying. Julia, where we have the green space in front, right? That was also just because of the airport. Wasn't it also part of that way back when we had to have a certain distance from the south approach of the airport, wasn't it?
So
that set everything back. If anybody has a question.
Well, as you can see, there's a really bright line that happens on this map that you can see. It's got this kind of diagonal to it, and that's aligning with the B2, what was previously the B2 zone for the airport, and I think it's now zone 2 as it's called out, and there's some restrictions in terms of density that you're allowed to have within those areas, and so a park is a very appropriate type of development to have within that area, and it also, I think, will create a nice appearance for the subdivision coming in to see parkland as opposed to seeing dense residential development right next to
I always appreciated that.
Great.
So
Any other questions?
I have a comment, and I'm not sure if it applies to this project, but I was doing a and the fire department let me know that state fire code doesn't allow you to have more than 50 units down a route where there's only one way in and out. And I'm looking at this and seeing probably that phase 2 would have more than 50 units with only one route in and out. And I'm not saying that's a reason to not vote on this, but just a heads up maybe to the applicant, and at some point they might need to figure out a solution to that before they start building phase 2.
Well, and I'll just show here, so the applicant has really closely worked with the Ukiah Valley Fire Authority, and they have had the opportunity to review this map as well. And it's a little hard to see just because of the size of the overall map.
That is a fire
This is an emergency access route here. So yeah, and it leads all the way back out to South State Street, so there are going to be two
ways to get it out.
Exactly, thank you.
And is there also, does it look like a roundabout is going to be constructed on State Street where Charlie Barra Drive exits?
Yes, so that is a continued requirement from the 2023 project as well, and I think all the way back to the Gardens Gate project. And it's required to be constructed at the 100th housing unit. There's provisions within the second restated DA and also the restated DA that speak to if the applicant chooses to wait to construct that, there's certain interim access requirements that they need to fulfill while the subdivision's being built out. So, and that remains a continued proposal here, and they've been looking at some landscaping on that site and low maintenance type of improvements.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so just speaking to the inclusionary housing plan, which is included as an attachment to the packet as well. There's really minor adjustments that were made to the inclusionary housing plan, just reflecting that it's a 42-unit senior housing development now. As I stated originally, 10% of the remaining units would be affordable to moderate income households, and that is the 13 units that I mentioned. They have the phase development of the inclusionary housing unit, so they are not required to have to construct them in phase 1, but they may choose to do so. And then they have to ensure that all 13 units are constructed at the end of phase 2. And the requirements for the inclusionary housing plan are provided in the restated inclusionary housing agreement, which is attached to the second restated development agreement that's before you today. In terms of consistency with plans and policies, as detailed in the staff report, the project fulfills actually a number of Ukiah Valley area plan policies, promoting both having housing located for a range of ages and incomes within the Ukiah Valley, Also emphasizing complete and integrated communities that encompass the facilities and activities essential to daily life of the residents and promote community atmosphere and interaction. And I think that's really done through the various parks that are included as part of the overall project. They also have demonstrated that there's adequate water and sewer services to support this type of development, which is something that is focused on underneath the Ukiah Valley Area Plan to ensure that there's just sufficient services available for any type of future development. They also are maintaining land use and building that practices that will promote fire safety by maintaining those 2 access points. And now I do just want to touch on this here because one change that has happened since the project was previously in front of the commission in 2023 was that the CAL FIRE established fire hazard severity zones in the local responsibility areas. So there's a graphic on PC page 15 that shows you what those new designations are that are applied across this site. However, in reviewing the requirements within those fire hazard severity zones for local responsibility areas, it does add a few requirements for the landowners within those areas. It's not going to create a significant change for the project, and also does not create any concern with the ability for this project to be approved. So specifically, what would be required of landowners in these new zones is that they will now have to construct buildings in compliance with California's Wildland Urban Interface Building Codes, which is Chapter 7A. There's defensible space clearance requirements and other wildland safety practices for buildings that are specified in government code that they would have to comply with. And there is now a natural hazard disclosure required as part of a real estate transfer. So these no immediate concerns are identified with the subdivision and the ability to meet those requirements, but it is a small change that has occurred since the prior approval. With regards to the county's housing element, this project also helps to fulfill several policies within the county's housing element and by promoting safe and healthy housing arrangement for residents of all income levels, encouraging the development of an adequate supply of housing and range of housing densities and types to meet the diverse needs of county residents, encouraging and assisting in development of affordable housing by reducing constraints and identifying incentives and tools for affordable residential unit development. And I think part of this is with the incentives and concessions that are being considered. This does provide, so this project is at a greater ability for the subdivider to be able to establish this project and be able to meet their objectives as well as providing housing to the community. And also it encourages a range of housing types by also including the senior neighborhood as part of this as well. In terms of the county zoning regulations, the commission previously reviewed an administrative permit for this site, and that administrative permit was granted. There's no changes proposed to it, so that's why it's not included as part of this. And that administrative permit was to allow for the construction of single-family homes in what is an R3 or a multifamily residential zone. And appropriate findings were made in that area. I'll just back up to show you. It's at the very front of the subdivision. It aligns with what I call it the half-court sort of shape here. It's hard to see, but it's this faint line here that does this curve. And the R3 zone is the portion on the most eastern side of that line. So there's a few lots that you can see that fall within that area. And so the administrative permit was necessary to allow for single-family residential development to occur in that multifamily zone. So there's no changes proposed to that prior approval, so that is not necessarily in front of you today. In terms of the compliance with other provisions of the zoning code, there is the standard dwelling density, which is 1 unit per 6,000 square feet of lot area. And this subdivision obviously does have is more condensed than that. And so you can see that that's been discussed in more detail within the staff report, but generally the single family residential lots are going to be similar to what was previously included underneath the prior subdivision. They really haven't adjusted much. In some instances, they've actually grown as well. So the main item I think I want to highlight for you in terms of the county zoning consistency is the new request for a concession or incentive from the applicant. And these are the concessions and incentives that were granted for site development requirements for the zoning district is summarized in Table 2, which is on PC page 17. And the additional one is for minimum rear yards to be reduced from where 20 feet is required to 15 feet. And this will just allow for a little bit more flexibility with the site development. And there's been no concerns expressed by any referral agencies about that reduction as well. And staff recommends approval of that.
Can I ask, since we're here, what do you mean by flexibility?
So it just allows so that the applicant could choose if they want to locate, say, the back portion of the house for in the front yard, garage may be allowed to have that opportunity 15 feet if they so desire.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
So the rest of the modifications were previously approved, it's just the minimum rear yard
That's correct.
New.
Yes. And then in terms of consistency with the Ukiah Municipal Airport Land Use Compatibility Plan, the project that was approved in 2023 was reviewed by the Airport Land Use Commission, and this project actually reduces the overall density, so that consistency is maintained, and no additional requirements are necessary. There is already a requirement that was on the original project, and that'll be continued, which is that they have to record an avigation easement that's acceptable to County Council on the parcels that lie either partially or wholly within any compatibility zones 2 and 3. There's none that are falling in compatibility zone 2, but zone 3, there are going to be lots that fall within zone 3. So that'll be a requirement continuing forward. In terms of the division of land regulations, I won't go, there's a lot of detail in the staff report through it, so I'm not going to go through all of that, but I will essentially just note that the project does comply with the division of land requirements. And so I think one of the key items that I know was a topic of discussion in the past too is about street names. So there's examples of the street names that could be considered, and that's included on PC page 19. And as you saw on the tentative map, they are proposing the main thoroughfare to be Charlie Barra Drive. And that's remained consistent from the prior project as well. Here, I did have an exhibit. I forgot about this. You can see there's that where that R3 zoning was, and then the rest of the site is SR in this portion and rural residential 5-acre minimum in the back portion.
Can I back up just for curiosity? So the street names came from the applicant or came?
They came from the applicant, yes.
So the county traditionally just lets the applicant name streets?
They will ultimately, there's a condition that requires that they have to submit a street naming plan for the entire project to our office, and then our county addresser will review that and determine whether or not there's any road names that conflict. Originally, there were some street names in the 2023 project that the county addresser was concerned about, but this revised list, there's been no concerns expressed at this point, but a final plan will have to be established.
Okay, cool, thank you. It's just a funny, unrelated list of names. I guess they're all Italian.
Yes, I think fitting in the theme of the Bella Vista subdivision, yes. Next, just to touch on the second restated development agreement, it is very similar to the restated development agreement that was approved in 2023. It provides for a 10-year term plus certain extensions. It authorizes the reduction in plan review fees for master residential building plans. It requires recordation of public access easement on the neighborhood park and establishes HOAs, maintenance obligations. I will note the final adopted conditions also provided that the applicant could consider working in concert with the county, other alternatives that were acceptable to the county, such as a community facilities district or something along those lines. It also allows phase submittal of subdivision improvement plans, identifies the phasing requirements, addresses the construction of the off-site sidewalk improvements, and then does include that restated inclusionary housing agreement that I mentioned earlier. In terms of environmental determination, staff reviewed the project in the context of the analysis in the original certified Gardenscape project EIR and also the addendum that was prepared for the modified project that was approved in 2023. And through that review, we determined that an addendum was an appropriate document, that there was no substantial changes in the project that required major revisions to the EIR due to new significant effects, that substantial changes in circumstances under which the project is undertaken that would require there has been no substantial changes in circumstances under which the project is undertaken that would require major revisions to the EIR. And there's no new information showing that the project has significant effects that were not addressed in the EIR or mitigation measures different from those analyzed in the EIR to mitigate those significant effects. And I will note, and that's what's included within this packet as well for the commission, is there are minor amendments to the mitigation monitoring and reporting program that was previously adopted, and that is truly to reflect the revised layout of the subdivision. So that includes addressing where the lots that were previously located next to the creek have been, is now parcel M as opposed to numbered lots. And then also there's some adjustments to the conditions of approval that were previously approved for the project. And that's primarily focusing on the requested reduction from the what the applicant has requested, the reduction from the sidewalk and landscaping widths. And so the sidewalk and landscaping widths, that reduction, let me back up. So at the Board of Supervisors meeting on April 11th, 2023, the board added an increase to what is this county standard requirement for sidewalk and landscaping widths. And through the work that was completed by the applicant and working on their development plans, they have not been able to accommodate those increases. So the request is to go back to the county standard, to remove those increases and go back to the county standard, and staff has recommended approval of that within the packet as well.
Can I like dive right in there, because I'm curious. I was trying to find the justification or the reasoning for 55 ENF, and I wasn't able to find anything because the minutes don't reflect it, and there was no video. I was just curious. Can you explain really quickly why ENF came about?
Yes, so I believe it was Supervisor Jurdy at the time who recommended addition of those, and I'm going back in my memory bank, so forgive me if I misremember, but I believe the intention was because of some work that the supervisor had looked at that saw that maybe increased sidewalk widths would allow for better passing of individuals that are walking along the roadway. So that was, I think, the basis that was included, and staff did, we discussed it during the meeting. We ended up coming back with a red line resolution for the board's consideration, making those changes. But since that time, and it's detailed on PC page 21 in your packet, the applicant has requested that be, those requirements be removed. And again, it's primarily because if they were to include those, they'd likely be asking for an exception to the roadway width. And the Ukiah Valley Fire Authority was not supportive of reducing the roadway width to accommodate that. So that's been one of those factors that's included. And the county regulations under the Division of Land Regs does provide that there is the ability for the commission to remove any added conditions under certain findings being made. So the deletion of condition of approval 55 subparts E and F, the department recommends that those go ahead and be modified or removed because they exceed the county standard design and are imposing an unforeseen hardship on the applicants due to the existing topography and width of the site. As the applicant has tried to work with adjusting that or adjusting the roadway widths, it's just, it doesn't look like it, but there is actually a grade change that happens across this site. And it's quite challenging for them to be able to accommodate those increases while still providing, appropriately sized lots and, improved community design for the overall subdivision.
How about being sure fire trucks can get in there? That'd be nice.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
What's the current sidewalk width right now at the county?
So the county standard for sidewalk widths, and sorry, because I have it in my report,
Yeah.
is, I believe it's 5 feet in width.
Yeah. Good.
All right.
So with all of that said, and staff is happy to answer any questions you have because I realize it is a very large packet, a lot of information, that the recommended action is to adopt, that the Planning Commission adopt a resolution recommending that the Board of Supervisors adopt an addendum to the Gardenscape final EIR, approve an amended mitigation monitoring and reporting program, approve an amended vesting tentative map with conditions, approve a density bonus for the senior neighborhood and reductions in development standards for the traditional neighborhood per state density bonus law, approve the modified preliminary landscape plan and planting plan, approve the modified inclusionary housing plan, approve the, the restated inclusionary housing agreement, and adopt a second restated development agreement for the Bella Vista subdivision, including a modified phasing plan. Lots of information.
Yes.
So that concludes my presentation. I know that the applicant is available on the line as well, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
I have
Thank
one
you.
more, but go ahead.
Please.
Oh, no. I defer. Oh, do you have one?
No, you
Oh,
go
you were
ahead.
g- you were
No,
headed on.
I'm good.
So this is really
Ask your
going to drag
question.
the momentum of this meeting down, but just really quickly again, my understanding is that density bonus laws that applies to senior housing, if you're granted that due to senior housing, they're specifically not eligible for concessions. So I don't really understand how that works, how we're asking for the setback reduction based upon that. So just for my own understanding, I truly tried to understand.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a discussion of that in the staff report as well. So the senior neighborhood itself does not establish the ability for concessions and incentives, but the density bonus granted for that portion of the project, for the senior neighborhood portion, that does create the pathway for the county to approve concessions and incentives. So it's not for the age-restricted component itself, it's for the overall density that's within that age-restricted component. Does that make sense?
I guess I was getting hung up on the fact that it was senior housing, and I shouldn't be.
I completely understand, because
Okay.
senior housing is not eligible for concessions and incentives. That is clear in state density bonus law. But the fact that the county is granting a density bonus to that portion, that does open up that opportunity for concessions and incentives.
Thank you. That helps.
Other questions? Okay. The applicant is on the line, you said? All right.
We have Jake Morley online.
Jake Morley, can you hear us?
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
We can hear you.
Okay, great. I don't have much to add. I first just want to thank Julia on the heavy lifting on this project. She's more intimate with it than I think I am, and at a certain point, I think we're probably going to just have to put her on a tractor to just see this project all the way through. I don't have any items to address that Julia didn't already kind of nail, but if you have questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Do you know when this is going to happen? No. Any other questions for the applicant from?
I have a
commissioners?
general question. Are you planning to do the development yourself or just subdivide and sell the lots?
We are planning to do the improvements, and we've partnered with Christofferson Homes out of Santa Rosa to go vertical.
Got it.
And just last week, we submitted our 9 building plans. We've got our draft landscape plan. I've got a lot done behind the scenes, ready to go. I'm on my 3rd version of improvement plans. As Julia mentioned, I do have some grade out there. The site looks flat, but that slow grade has caused trouble. But I think we've worked through it.
And do you have what's the stormwater management situation for the project? Have you thought through that, or where's the stormwater going?
The storm water will go to the neighborhood pond or neighborhood park that has a pond on the bottom.
Got it.
and then metered out slowly.
And I'll just add, there was a stormwater plan that was included with the 2023 approval as well.
I wasn't here then.
Yes, no. So, and it is, it's included as an attachment to the addendum that was prepared for that project, which was posted online for this. Lots of information, so I can completely understand not memorizing all of the attachments. And so, but there is a plan that was established, and that's been reviewed by all the appropriate agencies as well.
Okay, any other
I mean,
questions?
honestly, I didn't read everything. It was just too much.
No,
did the best that I
have
could.
no questions at this point.
Okay, sounds like no other questions for the applicant. All right, thank you very much, Jacob. All right, well then, we will invite public comment. The commission will now hear public comment on this item. The commission will start with public comments in the room and then hear from telecommenters and those that are connected virtually via Zoom. When you're called to speak, please state your name for the record. Public comment is limited to 3 minutes per person. Speakers are asked to please address their comments to the meeting chair and to refrain from using profanity or engaging in conversation with members of the audience or staff. I don't see anyone in the room wishing to speak on this right now. Do we have any people on telecomment or on Zoom?
No telecomments and no hands raised in Zoom.
Okay. Do we have any final remarks from, I'll close the public comment then. Do we have any final remarks from staff?
None at this time, thank you.
All right. Any final remarks from the applicant? Okay. All right, do we have any additional questions from any commissioners?
No, I'm ready for a motion.
Okay, I will invite a motion then.
All right. I move to adopt what number are we calling this?
They're not numbered until after you.
Yes, okay. Well, okay. December 18, 2025, resolution of the Planning Commission, County of Mendocino, State of California, providing report and recommendation that the Board of Supervisors adopt a second addendum to the Gardens Gates final environmental impact report, approve an amended mitigation metering or monitoring and reporting program, approve an amended vesting tentative map with conditions, approve density bonus and reductions in development standards per state density bonus law, approve preliminary landscape plan and planting plan, approve an amended inclusionary housing plan, and adopt a second restated development agreement for the Bella Vista subdivision, including a modified phasing plan and an inclusionary housing agreement per December 18, 2025.
All right, do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, I will invite a roll call vote then, please.
Commissioner Jones,
Yes.
Commissioner Wiedemann,
Yes.
Commissioner Richards,
Yes.
Vice Chair Paulin.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
All right.
And just
All
to the
right.
developer, thank you for sticking with us and for building housing in our
Yeah.
community.
Yeah.
And thank you, Julia,
For all the hard
quite
work.
a good report. And yeah, this was a long time coming.
It's still coming. Yeah. Oh, knock on wood.
Yeah, and I'll just note that this is tentatively right now, it'll be in front of the Board of Supervisors in February is the
Right.
tentative date.
Right. Yeah.
Good
All
job.
right.
Thank you.
That was a lot of work.
Can I ask when the MAC or the Redwood Valley MAC item will be in front of the board?
I believe it's also in February, but I
February?
need to confirm on forecasting. Sorry, I had this project
right.
in the forefront of my brain, so.
Really? Thank you.
All right. Do we have any additional matters from staff? As
None, thank you.
Great. Additional matters from the commission? Commissioners have any items?
No, other than have a good holiday, everybody.
Yes.
Happy
Right.
holidays.
All right, then. I will invite a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I
move
move
to-
that we adjourn the meeting.
I'll second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. See you in 2026, everybody.
Woohoo. I wasn't sure either.